How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good. Very happy to be here with all of you today. I'm enjoying town very much, and unfortunately I have to leave today, but I'm very excited to talk with you about this. So as he said, I'm the VP of New Media for the Producers Guild. I've been the chairman of the New Media Council for the last 2 years. And the Guild has been very out front in the industry regarding transmedia storytelling, which we'll talk a little bit about. And so I'll share this with you. So who's heard of transmedia? Okay, a couple people, right? 5 years ago, it would have been nobody except me, so that's okay. So it's all right. So what we're going to kind of touch on now, and I typically do this as a 6-hour master class. So this is the quickie 1 hour, so we're going to watch the clock, okay? But, what is transmedia? A lot of people think it's just a new tag name, you know what I mean, for multi-platform or things like that. Come on in, guys, it's all good. Things like that. One of the things that transmedia represents is a freedom for producers to engage audiences wherever they live in the digital space. And because it's all based in freedom, I feel that people are free to call it whatever the hell they want. That's my take on it. So I actually call transmedia storytelling through advanced content. That's what I call it, based on my experience having worked at a broadcast network. And just to give a little background, I come out of the AFI program 25 years ago. I worked for a year at a talent agency, which was kind of the entry-level job back then. Did a lot of independent film, worked with a broadcast network at Fox, and then I've been in digital since 2005. Okay? All right, so where is this new form of storytelling taking us, right? That's the whole big thing. What does this really mean for us as independent filmmakers? I'm assuming we're all independent filmmakers, okay? And this talk is really about how this is going to benefit you guys, all right? Especially in a festival environment. Okay, what is community the new commodity? And that's what I would argue it is. We touched actually a little bit in the last panel, which was really great for those who were part of it. And so how do we build our audience and empower them to build our brand around our stories, okay? And then how can we be a part of the future? The exciting thing about this time in Hollywood is that you can write the rules as you go and break them along the way. And what we're going to learn in talking is that most people in Hollywood are a bunch of scared kids in a dark room. Guys like me are looking for the light switch. And once the lights are on, there'll be plenty of opportunity and money for everybody. But right now, everybody's scared to death because it's about the money they're losing, right? That's what it is. Okay, so that's what we're going to touch on. So here's the big thing that's really important. Could we drop the lights a little bit? Is that possible?
Yes.
Just a little bit to see the screen a little better? So, here's what happens in 60 seconds online between 2012 and 2014, right? In 60 seconds, it was 25 plus hours uploaded to YouTube. Now it's 120 hours every minute to YouTube. Okay? The whole idea about emails, Facebook, Instagram, all these different areas, right? Expanding exponentially. Okay? 342,000 tweets every minute, right? This is showing us that the audience is already out there, right? They're engaged in the digital space. They're engaging content, they're sharing content, they're creating content. This is the audience that we are servicing with our stories, okay? And it's a very exciting thing, okay? Scary as hell, but it's exciting, right? That's why these companies are being valued so much. You're like, why is Twitter worth so much money? It's because of these kind of metrics. But here's the thing that's not going to change, is that by nature, as people, right, we're storytellers, right? We tell stories. First it started, as just people among, talking to each other, and then as we got technology, we expanded our storytelling. Those who don't know, those are Navajo storytelling dolls on the bottom there, right? This is how we told stories. But then, of course, we live in a world of innovation, right? Now here's the question for everyone. Can you name one of the biggest new media advances in the 40s, which grew on a global scale, peaking in the 90s, and that although in decline, still exists today?
Radio.
It is not radio.
Television.
It's not television. The stereo view cards. Anybody ever seen one of these? Okay. This is a stereo view card from 1898. In that year, this was $1 billion global new media business. This was cutting-edge storytelling technology in 1898. On the back, it's printed in 6 languages. It's immediately distributable around the world. People would have a series of cards, and this is how they would learn what the world was like. It would create a 3D image. Okay? By the way, has anybody ever played with one of these?
Yeah.
That's the great-grandson of this.
Yeah.
This is what people knew, this is actually from Japan in 1898. This is what people knew what an Asian person looked like, because they didn't have them in England, right? What a tiger looked like, it's before they had zoos, things like that.
Oh my God.
This is how the world knew what the world was like, okay? All right. Well, we're at a crossroads of the media evolution, right? As storytellers, we've evolved. From stereo view to radio to film, TV, and now mobile, right? But it's all converging because as broadband expands, as mobile technology expands, and as TV fades, it all comes together, right? And look at where we've gone in just a handful of years, right? Most of the kids on college are probably never going to have cable, right? That's just what it is, okay? So it's an exciting time. So when I was in film school in 1994, this was your toolkit, right? All of your exciting stuff that you had, all the things you had to tell your stories, and now, just some 20 years later, this is what you have. This is all you need. And boy, I sure remember every time I see an MTV crew running down the streets of Los Angeles, you know, with their little SLR, and I think about the crew of 35 I had to have 20 years before just to tell a story, right? So it's easier for us to tell our stories, right? So that's an exciting thing as well. So the Producers Guild. So in 2010, and really how this kind of went about, when mobile was really taking off in 2008, they finally decided it wasn't going to be mobile TV, it was about the mobile web, because web was really taking hold. And so what the Producers Guild did is they were very in front of this, and they decided to define a credit that the studios would all accept. And so this is their credit. Basically, it's about a producer who is the one that oversees the intellectual property. It's not just about the film, it's not just about the TV show. It's really about the characters in the world that they have, and how those stories, independent stories, are told from the central IP across the different platforms. So Transmedia is not about repurposing content. It's all about telling those independent stories, okay? I may not let my 9-year-old son watch Star Wars Episode 3 because I think it's too violent, but I'll let him engage the IP through comic books and toys and things like that, right? This is what we're talking about. And this really came about very organically because of the notion of vertical integration at the studios. If you're going to sell a film to Sony and you want to have a game, a video game, guess what? Sony's going to make it. They have that in-house division. They're not going to go to another vendor, right? That's what it's made so hard for the little guys, okay? You want to option a book. If that book is HarperCollins, which was part of Fox, you'll never be able to option the book, even though they don't want to do anything with it, because they control it, right? It's hard to get the rights, okay? So again, it's the idea of the central intellectual property, the character and the worlds that we create, and then all the different platforms that content could live on. And what's really important is it's all about identifying your audience, right? Know your audience. That's not a new thing to storytellers. So it's once you identify where your audience lives in the digital space, then you take those stories and take them to the different places. If you've got a film that maybe has an older demographic, you're not going to have a mobile ad, because that demographic isn't playing with a mobile ad, right? But they may have print or DVD or whatever else it's going to be. Okay? All right, but here's the big debate in Hollywood about transmedia, okay, besides the name, which nobody likes, okay? It's the idea of who really is the storyteller, okay? Who controls the content? Who controls the budget of that content? Who controls how, where, and when that content reaches the audience? The one word they never talk about enough in transmedia is strategy, okay? You know, it's the studio, the producer, the ad agency, right? It's this ongoing debate. And one of the things we've been very important about pushing with the Producers Guild is that the future of digital content is about spending production dollars up front instead of marketing dollars after the fact. And that's the problem with the studios. They spend just as much money to market the movie as they do to produce it. But the problem is that very often there's a creative disconnect, especially in television. That was my experience working in a network, right? And the last thing that a TV show would ever want is to have a marketing filming crew come on the set. They just want to get them out there as quick as they can, okay? But if you're spending production dollars up front, now you've got the sensibility of the storytellers there that are really going to ensure that your stories are being told. Okay, any questions? Questions along the way? No problem. Okay. All right, here's the other big thing that's really important. It's about the new collaborations that are going to make the milestones, okay? That is a big, big thing. Very often the studios are very siloed in their thinking in terms of what they do and all the rest and who their partners and players are. This is absolutely something that can change itself. If you want to build a community around your film, let's say you do a film about an autistic child. You could actually reach out to the autistic community who wants that story to be told, and now they are the ones that are going to spread the word about your film, right? Things like that, okay? So that's really exciting. So it's all about having these other players in place. Plus, by the way, and we're going to talk about crowdfunding a bit later, the whole idea that now you've got this whole community that's an evangelist for your film, okay? Now when you go to distribute that film, you can share all that data that shows there is an audience for your film. No data, no dollars. I just heard this statistic. 80% of all the data that exists on Earth has only been collected in the last 2 years. Every little thing we do, they're just collecting all that endless data. It is crazy, right? You know, that's the big thing. And that stereo view card, who has the stereo view card? Okay? So if that's cutting edge technology in 1900, and you look at your TV in 1950, and now look at your cell phone today, where are we going to be in 20, 30 years? This is the world that we are going to tell our stories in. So for some it's scary, but I think it's very exciting. Okay? Okay. So what I hypothesize about the Transmedia Story World Connects is a convergence of three areas that normally have been very separate. Traditional media, branded advertising, and technology. Okay? This is the convergence that we have to understand. And because there's no standardization in the marketplace, technology is the last mile. So as storytellers, we have to be flexible with the technologies that we embrace, especially in television, right? Because you're dealing with broadcasters and whatnot, okay? If you're pitching a TV show to CBS, it's going to have a different digital footprint than one you sell to ABC, because they're doing different things, okay? Even with web content, you can have a 7-minute episode or a 4-minute episode or a 30-second episode, right? There's no standardization, okay? All right, so content convergence, traditional media, right? Whether it's TV, film, print, gaming, all these different things, we all know it as it is. At all the big studios, they're very siloed. Very, very siloed, okay? They don't talk to each other, believe me. Except the lawyers, the legal department, right? Making all the deals, okay? Then we've got branded advertising and social media. Why is that important? Because advertisers are the ones that are used to engaging the audience, right? And that's the big thing. How do we engage the audience? And in TV shows, nobody wants to watch commercials anymore. Nobody wants pre-roll for online video. So these are the guys that are hopefully going to be the ones that are going to help us engage the audiences and in the end pay for the content. And we're being conditioned now as consumers as to how that is, as technology widens and expands, right? A huge milestone for mobile was when they had mobile couponing, when it first penetrated into Target and Best Buy. Why? Because moms are the ones that usually make these purchases for cell phone plans, right? And where do the kids get their phones from? Typically they're hand-me-downs from parents, right? Okay? So it's things like that. We're being conditioned with consuming content with like American Idol, all the voting, right? Don't think that isn't a mistake, you know? And some of the studios would do texting campaigns, social media. This is the website for that film District 9, which is still live. I recommend everybody go check it out. There's an alien website and a human website. Crazy how much that website costs. And then even branded devices. This is Jeremiah's Beyonce phone. I pulled it out of his bag. All right? Just kidding. But things like that, right? Okay. Social media, scary as hell, right? We've all got our films. We're all trying to reach audiences, build our numbers, and all the rest. Here's the real quick thing related to that. All of these different platforms are different. They've got a different audience. You have different content, different engagement. It's all different. You don't just slap the same stuff out there. You really have to know. And guess where you can find out how to have best practices for all these platforms? It's just like going to Vegas. If you go to Vegas on a Wednesday, they have free poker classes because they want you to play. Go to Twitter's website. Believe it or not, they have manuals they'll give you on how to maximize their platforms. It's not that hard. It's all right there. There's great websites and all the rest, and newsletters you can get that will teach you the best practices for all these things. Okay? All right. But here's the one big thing in terms of the platforms we engage. It's all about the key influencers. The people that like what we're giving them, they want to share, they have this reach, right? They're going to reach you across all these platforms through their devices. And more that device is going to be what today is called a mobile device. Nobody knows what you're going to hold in your hand 5 years from now, right? This thing is going to constantly evolve, right? How many people got tablets who don't use them anymore? Because the phone does that much more. The bigger screen didn't make a difference. It's constantly evolving, right? So that's the other big thing. And then, of course, now, who engages? The brands. The brands are more and more going to be important in what's going on. I have a friend that just did a short independent film that was completely underwritten by Diesel Jeans. And because Diesel Jeans, which then was distributed on Vice, she had enough money, she got Chloe Sevigny to be in her movie, her short little film. Because this talent wanted to be in that branded content, right? Okay? Here's the interesting thing to understand about brands, all right? Even if you don't have any experience in it. This is a global brand map. All these consumer brands are owned by these handful of companies. They're all owned by those handful of companies. And what's interesting is, see, they're in these groups. So the way these groups are structured, all these groups have different ad agencies, right? They'll have different digital agencies, different traditional agencies. It's all broken up like this, but there is a framework in place. The reason why none of us know that is because the ad world has been so separate from the media world, right? That's the big thing. There's always been a disconnect. We only had one instance where I was at Fox 10 years ago where we had a brand. And it was a Ford integration. And basically the episode of the show was, it was a girl learning how to drive in England, and Ford was going to be the sponsor. And when they shot the episode at night, and they put her in a black car. And nobody knew it was a Ford, and it was a huge train wreck, okay? The whole idea about brands and whatnot, okay? All right. But what's really important about the brands is, and you're going to see here, none of these are brands, these are all ad agencies. These are actually the guys in the most trouble, by the way, because their world is ending. The idea of the $12 million commercial, that's all going away, okay? Because what happens is now, there's not that ad, there's not that sponsorship. You're actually digging within the brand brief and telling the story from the brand's perspective. And there's companies out there, and this company I'd recommend to everyone, it's called BEN, the Branded Entertainment Network. It's owned by Corbis. They're a sponsor of the Producers Guild, so I can talk about that. But what they do is, it's basically beyond next generation product placement, okay? So it's not like where they look at your script and they go, oh, you've got a scene in the bathroom, we're going to send you razors and shaving cream, right? It's not like that. It's who's your audience? Who are you reaching out to? So you're doing a story about an autistic child and his grandmother. Who is that audience? And who are the brands that resonate with that audience? Those brands are going to underwrite your film. Not because there's a big label on it, because they know it's that kind of thing. It digs deeper within the brand brief, which is something Hollywood has typically not done, okay? These are the guys who are going away, but unfortunately, these are the gatekeepers at the moment, okay? And as I said, their world is fading quickly. When you see great innovations in brands, digital engagements and things like that, storytelling, typically it comes from the brand itself and not the agency, okay? So how do we pay for our content while the brands are trying to figure it out? The audience, the crowdfunding, right? How many of you crowdfunded a project? Okay, did you make the money you wanted to make? You did not, okay? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, all right? Guess what? Believe it or not, most of the people now, even big films, are actually crowdfunding not for the money, but for building the audience, because that's what's really important. By the way, besides Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you know, where you get your grandma to send you $100, there's actually a slew of companies now, like Slated and some of these others, that actually match investors to the projects. You know what the #1 independent group of film financiers are outside of Hollywood? Dentists.
Yes.
Dentists finance more films than anybody else.
Dentists.
Okay? So it's crazy. So what a company like Slated does is they find some dentist in Akron, Ohio, right? And he's got $500,000 he wants to drop into a film, and he loves Westerns, okay? So what Slated will do is they will vet your projects. They'll say, this director has real credits. He can actually shoot a film. We like his other stuff. We've read this script. We've read their budget. They're vetted, right? And then they connect you with this guy in Akron, Ohio, who knows it's vetted. It's like an investment portfolio. And then he goes, yes, I'll drop your $500,000 into your film. And there's a ton of these companies now. It's really interesting, okay? So I recommend you checking all those. The audience, okay? A lot of genre films. How many of you do genre films? Okay, I get contracted all the time by genre films that are trying to go to distributors, and the distributors are saying, I want to see your social footprint. I want to see the community around your project, right? Whether that comes from funding or whether it's from your fan base, through bloggers, whatever it's going to be, they want to see those numbers before they pick up your film. It's almost as important as the film itself. There was a Taiwanese filmmaker, he was into genre films, and he had done a couple of films, and you know, Taiwan's a small market, but what he was able to do was, to raise the money for his film, and he charged like $300, which is a lot of money, but people would be extras in the film. So you paid $300, you got to be a zombie in this guy's film. So you could be a dead person or a live person. So they had hundreds of people do it, who all came together, who all paid to be there, who all got made up, and they all got to be in the movie, and they paid for the experience because they love those films so much, and they wanted to be in that guy's film, right? This is the new model for funding projects, okay? So traditional media, branded advertising, and technology, right? Technology is this thing that's always evolving. Whether it's second screen apps, augmented reality, immersive technology, wearables, right? Cars, devices. The refrigerator that you connect to your phone. And if you have in your schedule, you go to the grocery store on Wednesday, it's going to beam the grocery list to your phone. You don't even have to look inside to know you need milk. Samsung makes this. It's less than 5 years away, okay? Right? You're going to get into your car is going to sync up with your phone. It's going to say you have an appointment at 10 o'clock. It's going to look at the real-time traffic and know that you're going to be 5 minutes late, and it's going to automatically send a communique to your destination letting you know, right? And of course, we all know the car's eventually going to drive itself anyway, right? Okay, Here's a commercial for Bentley, which was shot I think less than 2 years ago, shot completely on iPhones, right? So the whole idea about how technology is allowing people to do stuff now is, more and more we're able to do it. Actually, the first mobile phone feature was shot in South Africa in 1995. And the reason why he used a cell phone was because it was the only technology that he had. He kept swapping out memory cards as he shot the feature. I've only seen about 7 minutes of it. It's apparently horrible, but just the same. National Geographic shoots several of its shows in Africa on the Nokia N95. They shoot the TV shows on the phone. It's pretty crazy. Okay? The technology is always in motion. You look at that hot phone that you have, and you think it's this great, great thing, but it's always in motion. Okay? The hottest mobile phone around today is like Pong for gaming or 8-track for music, right? Because they think it's going to change the world, and it's not. Okay? Here's Jeremiah's Dolly Parton 8-track. I'm going to pass it around. This was going to change music, and it didn't. Came and went. That's exactly what this is, right? Okay? And then, of course, what that phone represents is the world's remote control, right? If I leave the house with 2 of my 3 kids, I don't go back. I forget my phone. I always go back, right? And don't you too, right? Okay? Now here's interesting. You think about films and how we engage audiences and all the rest. So I haven't actually seen any billboards here in town, but if you go to Los Angeles or any major city, see a billboard like this, you're going to see a brand new sign at the bottom that says CBS. You know what that sign is? So when Westinghouse became CBS in 1948, Westinghouse owned these billboards, right? Which was traditional advertising. And so it became CBS Outdoors, part of this conglomerate, and they've been making money ever since then. You know why there's a brand new sign on there? They're going to start beaming stuff to your phone when you drive by. And you're going to opt in, and it's going to be Bluetooth, and the FCC won't be able to regulate it. They will be able to engage you through your devices and give you content in that moment or whatever it's going to be. Okay? You're going to see this more and more, these kind of billboards, these graphic billboards and train stations and things like that. Okay, more and more they're going to be engaging you, right? And who do we have to blame for this? There is someone to blame, by the way. It's Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. Remember the Minority Report where they read your eyeballs when you walk by? This is less than 10 years away. So I blame Tom Cruise and most likely Scientology, but it's still very scary. Right? Okay? That is the future of this engagement with our audiences. And so as we evolve towards that, there's more and more ways that you can do it. Imagine this. If you buy your ticket with a mobile app for a movie. You've made a movie, it's going to screen, I buy the ticket, okay? So now I go to the theater, and they scan my ticket to go into the theater. Now the movie theaters can have GPS tracking involved. So the minute I walk in the movie theater, all the new trailers are beamed to my phone, okay? So now I walk out of the movie theater, and it's 5 o'clock on a Friday night. They know I'm 16 years old. They know I bought 4 tickets, so I'm there with my friends or family. And I'm at the Westfield Mall, wherever I'm at. And now they're going to say, you want a pizza? Hit the button right now, we're going to order the pizza. You walk over and have the pizza, right? They probably even remember what you order on your pizza, okay? But here's the scary thing. So let's say the song has lots of music in it. Hey, do you want the soundtrack? Boom, you can buy the soundtrack. Hit the button right here. Hey, do you want episode 2? We're going to have a sequel. Boom, you can have the sequel, right? It's all this kind of engagement. So now they can use marketing dollars, opening marketing dollars, towards advanced digital sales and engagement. And by the way, then when the second episode, when Wedding Crashers 2 comes out, and they know you went to Wedding Crashers 1, now they send you a communique saying, hey, it opens next week, do you want to get a discount on tickets? You can buy your tickets, right? So it's all that idea of engaging us. And although that might seem very weird to us, it's very much a part of young people, millennials, that doesn't know about it. Okay? All right, so this is all about the engagement of storytelling through the audiences, right? So you've got passive, right? How do we know if people like your movie or TV show? Box office or ratings, right? But that's often impacted by how many screens we're on or what channel we're on, right? So then you have the notion of responsive, the whole idea about feedback, okay? Where we get feedback about whether it's an online survey or exit interviews or whatnot, things like that, okay, for the theaters. Then the ability to influence, okay? Who shot Mr. Burns, right? People get to weigh in on the content itself. And then what they call a fully immersive story world. The idea you create the world of the characters, you give it to the audience, and they determine where it's going to go. They can change the lives of the characters. And there have been a few of these that have existed, but it's still very early in the space in terms of what it creates. Okay? So have you heard of these? It's the new future, 4D immersion theaters. You get bubbles and all this kind of crazy stuff. You got dome technology. I'm actually working with this company in Los Angeles. Forget about your VR headset. Imagine the whole thing It's like a supercharged planetarium where everything becomes alive and moves around, okay? This was at South by Southwest, I believe. Okay? Huge. Those are 100-foot domes, huge spaces that we'll all walk into. Remember Soylent Green with Edward G. Robinson and when everybody's dying? That's coming very quickly, okay? This is a production in China. This is a combination of live stage, projection, dome, it's all that stuff. All these immersive experiences that we're engaged in, okay? And really what the future represents for digital is how do we take normal experiences and expand them into a digital experience, right? So here, check this out. This is a insert in the Sunday newspaper for kids about Box Trolls the movie. So you look at something like this that is very, very expensive. How can you make this into a digital experience for kids? Okay? It's all about how do you go to that next place, right? And how do you get the actual storytellers involved? How do you engage them in these platforms and expand your story? Okay? So, how do we create this transmedia plan for our projects, whether it's a small film, TV show, wherever it is, okay? So here, advanced content narrative, all right? The idea of development, right? Development. What's my idea? Who are my characters? You have to have these things in any kind of story. Identifying your audience, right? Who am I trying to reach with my story, okay? And then in building the story world, where does my audience live in the digital space? And so I can be easy to engage them, okay? And then distribution, right? How's the plan to roll out my story so I can have the best opportunity to engage my audience effectively? So for instance, film festivals, right? You've got a genre film, it's in a film festival. So what kind of content that you can create that you can give to the festival so they can output, they can engage the people attending the festival, thus building more buzz about the film, right? So can you imagine if you have a genre film and let's say you have mobile ticketing and 10 minutes after the film's over you get a call from the killer? Can you imagine things like that, right? Scared the bejesus out of you? Those kinds of things are coming, you know what I mean? Things like that. Imagine if you had a zombie movie and everybody walks out of the theater and you've got 20 college students that are volunteers and they're outside waiting as zombies to get you. You know, things like that, right? How do you create those events around the content? Production, how do you capture the content? How do I adjust my normal production practices to capture my digital content? Okay? Let's say I have a film that has set in high school and you've got this teenage girl in the thing, right? In the show. And a lot of these characters in real life, they have like video blogs. They're bloggers. So you get that character to create a blog that people can then go to follow and get more background on the character. Let's say you're stunting it with a notable piece of talent. Now that blog can actually be advanced in advance of the film coming out, right? Because that's the strategy piece. What content am I giving people in advance of my film? What am I giving them while the film's in theaters? What am I giving them after it's in theaters? Because now I want to drive them to wherever they're going to find it on the digital space, Netflix or wherever it's going to be. You get different content that you output at different times, okay? And then monetization, right? The whole idea of how are the partners that you have, how are you monetizing your content? And more there are companies that are doing that, okay? And even shorts, the short that I had last year, I've got a company that's actually going to put it on Netflix. So a lot of these platforms now are looking at the true potential of the digital space for monetization. How many of you have written a screenplay? Okay? So, you've all written a screenplay and you've all done the note cards, right? You've got your 100 note cards, right?
Yes.
And as your story comes together, your note cards get shed away because they don't fit in your story. They're good ideas, you thought enough to write it down. What transmedia represents is that as you shed things away, they then could live on other platforms. Think of your script as your Christmas tree, and all this digital content become the ornaments on the tree. This extra grade content. The best lecture I ever had at AFI was from Ed Zwick. And it was when before Courage Under Fire came out. And if you remember Denzel Washington's character, he had PTSD from the Gulf War, and he had a drinking problem. And there's a scene that Ed Zwick showed us with him and his wife talking about the drinking and just this whole thing about how he didn't want to live and all the rest. It was a very powerful scene that wasn't in the movie. So Ed Zwick said, I love this scene. I thought about this scene as I was writing the script. It means so much to my character. It's not in my movie. It's not in my movie because it didn't move my story forward. And that's the hardest thing a director has to do. And so I still remember that. So now what digital provides you is a chance to have those things, right? To have those things. For television, one of the things I'd recommend is going to the Jimmy Fallon website. They've actually won the Emmy Awards several times. They will create a character in the TV show and then take it to the web, and it never comes back to TV show. They never mention it again. But because that Fallon audience turns off the TV and goes to the computer, now there's this great engagement. See what I mean? They use the one platform to drive you to another place. Okay. Any questions about this? Nothing? Okay. All right. It always starts with good story and good characters, right? That is the key. That is the key. Okay? Very important. So, Superman, right? Great character, great story, okay? One of the things I always try to tell, and if you ever want to do this exercise, you take a TV show or a movie pre-1985, and you take that IP and you pretend that it's a 2015 release, 2016 release. So you take the Brady Bunch as a brand new show today, right? What would that website for that show be, right? Maybe they'd have Marcia's blog, they'd have this, they'd have that, whatever it's going to be, okay? So imagine Superman from 1938. It was a comic book, right? Comic books still exist today. It's continued, right? Television started in the 1950s. You had a new medium they wanted young people to watch. They took an IP that had thrived for young people, brought it to the new platform, right? Films. 1984, they made the film, had a franchise of films, right? Very successful, made tons of money, was a perfect way they were able to leverage that IP successfully across different platforms, okay? So now imagine taking Superman today in an advanced concept narrative space, and now you have Superman, right? The new Superman, okay? Now you got Warner Brothers behind it with all their vertical integration involved, right? And of course now you have to have Bugs Bunny because Warner Brothers bought DC, so they're going to leverage their IP across other IP. That's very important to them. But then you have all these other integrations. And what today is typically the expansion of branded content, advertising, will eventually evolve into content, right? Why do they sell toys for kids? They're not sending their kids to that movie most likely, or maybe they are, but they want to engage the kids, right, with the IP. Okay? And the chips are pretty damn good, so. Okay. All right? So that's what I would do. Take a movie you love and imagine that film. And if you really want to get tricky about it, you know, you could even go and say, okay, that film that I love from 1980 is a Paramount movie. What's Paramount's website like? Because this film would have to live in that digital footprint. You get really granular with it. Maybe you're teachers, that's great for your students. But again, it's all about good storytelling, right? Why, and isn't that what's horrible about this new movie, which I haven't seen because they said it's so bad, the new Superman, Batman? But it's all about having good stories and good characters, right? Okay. Here's an example of a case study that I did a few years ago. I had a chance to speak at the Global Retailing Conference, and it was all about how they were trying to add mobile storytelling to the point of sale, okay? So who's watched Entourage? All right, you like Entourage? Okay. So the idea for this is, and at the time I did this, HBO had a deal with AT&T, okay? You create a character-driven storyline that would launch in the broadcast series, but live in the mobile space. So who knows Johnny Drama? Johnny Drama, right? Kevin Dillon's character. So I'm going to pitch you the story right now. You're HBO, okay? So Kevin Dillon's character, Johnny Drama, has a new acting teacher, okay? She's worked with Brando. She's worked with Redford. She's worked with all the icons of Hollywood. And after years and years of trying to get her to work with him, she's finally taken Johnny on. And he knows it's going to change his career, but there's a catch. She is notorious for seducing every one of her students. And she is now 85 years old. And Johnny is scared to death he's going to sleep with this woman, okay? Now, you can see that, right? Why can you see that? Because it's a good character. You can see very specifically what those situations are. You launch that storyline in broadcast, you never see the acting teacher in the show. You have to go to HBO Mobile to watch the short form episodes of their engagements. See what I mean? It drives you. And by the way, the business model is that HBO's deal with AT&T, at the time I did this, you only had to pay $5 extra a month to have the HBO Mobile if you had a rich media plan. And people pay $5 for this, right? So what happens is you produce 15 3-minute episodes. In principal photography, the cost goes way down. But you have the high production value, right? The episodes are available exclusively on HBO Mobile through the subscription model, so the infrastructure is in place. The mobile content is then tied to a retail fashion brand, Calvin Klein. This acting teacher's all about Calvin Klein. He's got to wear the suits, right? The whole thing. What does that buy you? Well, Calvin Klein's money is probably going to pay for the episodes. And then all of that entourage branding, because we have a character who's supposed to be an actor, they can put Johnny Drama in the Calvin Klein suit in the fashion magazines. See what I mean? As his character, right? Isn't that great? Then what you could do is at the point of sale, let's say the big thing is the brown suits, the chocolate suits, right? Which was a big thing in a time. Now, when you buy the chocolate suit, there's a QR code on the tag, and you get an extra episode of the show that you only get unless you buy the suit. Now, wouldn't that be great? And Calvin Klein's going to drive that, right? All this engagement, all of this, is great. And then the Calvin Klein branding stays with the show because it's seamless. Because it's a part of the storyline into syndication, DVD, reruns till the end of time, right? It's not, Hollywood is so obsessed with losing money, the future in digital is finding the new money. And how can our stories benefit by helping drive us to the new money? Okay? All right. It's a great time for storytellers, right? Because advanced content allows storytellers to reach an audience and have free rein to convey your message, right? But the consumer, empowered by technology and enabled by social connectivity, can share that message around the world, okay? Right, here's our Milledgeville Filmmakers. I see one in the front row, okay? Anyway, all right. A movie poster has been a tool of reach for storytellers since Chaplin. And since then, only two things have changed. Can anybody guess what's changed on a movie poster since Chaplin?
Color?
Nope, plenty of color Chaplin posters. In the 1930s, they added a rating, which the government mandated. And in the 1990s, they added a URL, which nobody types, but it's on there, okay? It's the only thing that's ever changed on a poster. So now imagine you're at a bus stop here in town, and there's the poster for 2012. And if you remember that poster, it's the big wave, right? So I might have heard about the movie and whatnot, and I see the poster and I go, holy crap, I gotta go see that poster, right? I gotta see the movie. But now, if there's something as simple as a QR code on there, I can scan it with my phone for free, and I see the trailer. Holy crap, I am really gonna go see that movie now. But where does the real power come? What am I gonna do with that trailer once I see it?
Share it.
I'm gonna share it. The reach of that poster's gone 1,000% and costs the filmmaker or the studio nothing.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to put a QR code on their posters, there's apps you can do it for free. You don't have to pay anybody to make the QR code, okay? And by the way, the QR code is an intermediary technology. What eventually is going to be, you're just going to hold up your camera to the poster, and the poster's going to come alive, okay? You're going to take the Sunday newspaper and hold your phone up to it, and the photo of Kobe Bryant is going to become a video. These technologies exist, and they'll be mainstream in less than 5 years. It's really, really scary stuff, okay? So now here's the thing about storytelling, okay? It's all about community. Community is the new value proposition. You create content that sparks a conversation, builds a community. I'm going to shoot a little movie here in town about an autistic boy and his grandmother, right? This is a relatable story. It's a simple story with unknown talent. It's a $100,000 film. I create that content that sparks a conversation. I have a website. I'm engaging with people. I'm telling the story. I'm allowing people to share stories, right? Because there's themes in the film that I want to share with other people. That builds the community. Because once you have the community, you can engage, influence, and entertain. And that's the value proposition. That's what gets very exciting, okay? Now they're trying, some of the networks are trying, this was a TV show they had Rising Star on ABC. You'd have an app, and the way the show worked is you'd have your singer, and you'd have all these people that would be online.
Wow.
And if enough people liked you online, the screen would come up and there was a live audience in the back. Now, I know our legal professor has left. One of the big problems with this. All right, well, number one, so here's Beth, right? And Beth's profile picture is her topless in Cabo San Lucas in spring break, right? That's not going to work. So all these people have to be vetted. But it's supposed to be a live show. How can you vet people when they're live? Well, they faked it, didn't they?
Ooh.
Isn't that great? So things like this, huge failures. Huge failures, okay? And nobody cared. In fact, in this particular show, I remember when the pilot happened, you couldn't vote for the first person until 20 minutes into the show.
Oh.
It was a bad user experience, right? You didn't care about the app by that point, okay? What you're seeing in sports, right? The whole idea about community, right? Where communities come together for sports. I was in India for the Cricket World Cup. These people are maniacs. It's crazy. Everything went crazy, right? All right? Now imagine this. I'm going to go to a baseball game. Let's say an Atlanta Braves game, not a California Angels game. And I'm going to buy a ticket through the app, right? Isn't that great? Now I can buy a $10 seat or a $75 seat. What's the difference? My view of the game, right? I'm closer to the game. Now imagine if I use GPS technology to architect a grid over the whole stadium. And when I buy that ticket, when I buy the 75 ticket on the app, when I'm outside the stadium, I get content. When I get different content, and when I'm in the seat, I have different content. Okay? So now I'm motivated to buy the $75 seat because I'm getting all the stats, I'm getting everything, I'm getting the video replay, right? Anybody ever been to a baseball game and seen an old guy with a transistor radio? This is the modern digital version of that. It's taking a normal behavior and creating a digital experience. Because wouldn't I pay extra money for a better seat and that digital engagement? Yes, I would. And then, if people can opt in to have social connectivity, right? Now you've got a conversation. There's a play at second base. What do you think? Well, I thought this and I thought that, right? It's this whole community around it all, okay? All right, so that's sports. We're not in the sports business. All right, let's talk about this. So, I was very fortunate in 2011 to be asked by ABC to oversee this project. So for 3 years, I was the executive producer of digital for the Academy Awards, okay? And so the Oscars, believe it or not, is 3 different shows. It is the show in the theater for 3,000 people, right? Most of whom, by the way, the wives don't want to be there, believe it or not. All the Hollywood wives don't want to go, okay? They hate going to the show. And then you've got 1 billion people watching at home, okay? And then you have the digital experience. And so the digital experience was started the year before. John Lasseter from Pixar wanted to create a second screen experience. And so ABC did this kind of by the seat of their pants, and they lost all this money, but they won the Emmy for Best Interactive Experience. So now they wanted to do this all over again. And so they brought me in to basically oversee it. And because I've been a network executive and I've been so involved in digital, it was really an organic place for me to be because I basically had to oversee 6 teams at Disney because they didn't talk to each other, right? That's the big problem between tech and content and marketing and everything. They didn't talk to each other. And they didn't talk to the Academy, which is a big problem. So believe it or not, this is a doctored photo. Most of the Oscar posters are heavily doctored. So this was a great experience because I could dig up all this extra content. Very often I would have to physically grab the content myself because I knew what the audience wanted, right? So for instance, they were going to have the Governor's Ball preview, the food, okay? Everybody loves the food, Wolfgang Puck and all that. So the first year I said to the Academy, send me pictures of the food. They sent me 8 photos. The second year I said, can I go? And they said yes. And I took my phone and I took 120 photos. And then what I did is I actually got on the phone with the news director in Atlanta and I said, how would you like 8 exclusive photos for Atlanta? And they said, hell yeah. So I gave them those 8 pictures and then they linked to me and now I drove all this traffic, right? Because who watches the Oscars? People like my mom who are watching the affiliate news, right? What is the highest rated show in the Oscar telecast, historically? Highest rated moment in the show. What do we think?
Best Picture?
It's not any award.
Oh.
It's the award you don't want to get.
The folks that have passed away.
The In Memoriam is the highest rated moment. My first day on the job, I said I want a minute-by-minute ratings the last 5 years. The highest rated is the In Memoriam. But the Academy always has a problem with the In Memoriam because they only have time in the show to acknowledge 35 people. And on any given year, over 100 have died. So this is a pain point for the Academy because they'll always say, why didn't Andy Griffith make it? Why didn't Phyllis Diller make it? Whatever it's going to be, right? So what I did is I went to the Academy and I said, how about this? I'm going to create a gallery on the website that has all 120 people. And that gallery will be the official In Memoriam. And then that gallery will not go live in the show until the segment airs. And then you can tell people to come to my website. Okay? So in 1 week, how many people do you think looked at that gallery? 10 million people looked at that gallery because there was so much interest in who had died. So this is content that came out of nowhere. It was very organic to the brand, right? That's what it's really all about, okay? Is speaking to the community. Now, the other great thing about the Oscars is the films, right? The films, people talking about the films. The Academy wants you to go to these movies, and especially in a year like this where there weren't a lot of big mainstream movies. They're saying, why isn't Spider-Man nominated, right? Those are the movies that the people are seeing instead of these art films and things like that. Well, it's all about capturing the conversation around the films, right? So, right, with the Wolf of Wall Street, everybody's talking about it, and then there's the commentary, right? There are all these things that get out there, right? It's really crazy. Everybody's talking about the movie, putting their own spin on it, right? So this is all user-generated content that I got the Academy to approve.
Oh my God.
To put on the official website, because this is people celebrating the movies and everything else, right? Because they knew that it was all what it's about. So I was very fortunate to be a part of this. This was the Ellen selfie, right? Okay. So I talked a little bit in more detail in the legal class. There are going to be books written about this thing, because at the end of the day, this encapsulated the entire night, right?
Yeah.
And it was a photo that broke Twitter, if you believe that, or whatever else. Okay. So the funny thing about this picture is that it was completely architected. 35 people were in a meeting talking about this picture. Okay. And it was actually a disaster. You thought it was a success. It was actually a disaster. It was a disaster because they gave Ellen the phone. It was a Samsung sponsorship, $20 million Samsung sponsorship for the show. Okay, they give Ellen the Samsung phone. She goes out to do the bit. They all know what's going to happen, and her arms aren't long enough. So Bradley Cooper says, give me the phone. And she says, no. If you look at the video, she says no. And then eventually she gives Bradley Cooper the phone. That's why you can see Bradley, his arms are like this. He had to stretch all the way to get the picture. So guess who owns the picture? Bradley Cooper. Not ABC, not the Academy, not Samsung, not anybody. So I'm in the control room, and I'm not responsible for the photo, but obviously I know what's going on, and I'm going, oh crap, right? He has the phone. Then they give the phone back. Ellen takes it backstage, and they have all these people waiting around for the picture, all the Samsung people, all the Academy people, all the standards people, making sure nobody's dress is malfunctioning or anything. They have a big monitor, so they plug it in, everybody can look at it, because they got to do this quick. And they go, yes, the picture's okay. And then they give it back to Ellen's people, who are going to tweet from her account, okay? $20 million Samsung sponsorship sent from an iPhone, because Ellen has a deal with iPhone. So I'm in the control room with my samurai sword, about to kill myself, right? And the VP I'm standing next to is saying, oh, that's okay. And I'm going, you're an idiot. Somebody's getting fired over this.
Oh, don't bet yet.
Do you know what I mean? The pizza bit, that's 5 minutes later was the pizza bit with the pizza box. So they had vetted the pizza box, but nobody looked at the box because the pizza place, like many, gives away free Coke. It says Coke on the side of the box. There's a $20 million Pepsi sponsorship in the show.
Oh.
So all these things that happen in digital space where you're trying to tell a story and you have to kind of go with the flow, right? It's the community around the content, right? Isn't that great? The Academy loved this. This was the day after the selfie. Matt Groening put this together. He loved it, right? Why? Because it celebrates it all, right? It's the community. It's everybody coming together around the content, okay? You as independent storytellers, think about your audiences, where they live. How can you engage them with extra content, right? Whatever it's going to be. It could be traditional behind the scenes. Let's say you have a special shot. How they get that shot, whatever it's going to be. Capture all the content you can and then output it along the way, okay? Hollywood is always about reinventing itself. This is actually the Hollywood sign in 1978, believe it or not. It almost went in the toilet, you know what I mean? And actually, its fate was just finally sealed because there was a piece of the land that was for sale, and they couldn't raise the money to buy it. And guess who paid for the land to keep the Hollywood sign? Hugh Hefner saved the Hollywood sign, all right? New collaborations are going to make the milestone. So you're here at the festival, meet people, talk to people, find out how they raised their money, find out how they marketed their film, find out about other festivals. They talked about the big festivals, right, in the last session. It's just as powerful, the little festivals. And what I've learned, there's 3 major festivals that I go to a year, usually because I'm doing a lecture like this, and it's a lot of the same people. You know, it's a network. You just become part of that network, and you find out how it all goes and all the rest. By the way, any of you that are in genre films, I couldn't recommend this film more highly. It's the BFON. They're having their 20th anniversary this year. It's the largest genre festival in Asia. Many European genre films have their Asian premiere there, and I highly recommend it. I think the deadline for shorts is next week. Highly recommend you check it out. It's more zombie blood you can throw a stick at. It's a lot of fun. So I recommend that. In fact, I'd love to bring like 200 Koreans here to take over the hospital. You know, they just go crazy filming. They would love it, okay? All right, so festivals, make the most of that, okay? Central intellectual property, where do they live in the digital space? Think about how you can independently expand your stories into these platforms. Do it in principal photography, make it cheap, but make it good, right? You know, okay? You know, again, remember that your audience is there in the digital space. They're engaging all this content. They are there. How can you expand your stories into these platforms? They're all different, and all these platforms are going to help you tell your story. You just got to look at the information. Okay? And then again, content, conversation, community. Community around the content, that's the value proposition in digital. I knew when I first got into mobile that this was going to be the future of independent film, right? And that people wouldn't mind looking at stuff on a small screen. And that screen is going to exchange and expand. There are companies out there that are literally developing Princess Leia for your phone. That's probably 20 years away. That is happening very quickly, okay? All right, thank you very much.